everyone, and welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be all about making the little hat thing that I'm currently wearing. I think I'm going to label this video as a making of / attempting to video because it definitely shows the entire process of me making this, but it was my first time making something like this. So I'm not necessarily super educated on the process, and I'm not entirely happy with how it turned out. I still thought it'd be interesting to share the footage, share what I like about this, share what I don't like about this, what I did wrong, what I think I did right, and what techniques I would carry forward in the future when I'm doing stuff like this again. And hopefully I can have a follow-up to this video where I make something similar and improve upon all the things that I wasn't thrilled with. So as I said, this video is all about the little half hat / headband hat that I'm wearing. These were very popular in the 1950s, and they're one of my favorite styles because I feel like they complement hairstyles very well. Whereas a full hat can be kind of intimidating and difficult to style around, these little half hat / headbands can add a lot of volume and help keep the style in place, and also add a different pop of color or element, or just, I don't know, they're a fun thing to own and they're a fun thing to wear, and I really want to increase my collection of them. So now I'm just gonna get right into the footage of me making this, and I really hope you enjoy. The things I have specifically purchased for this project include some really pretty velvet millinery flowers. I also purchased some velvet vintage millinery leaves for this. And the cool thing about these is that they have wire stems, so you can wrap them around the hat base that you create instead of having to sew them on or glue them. From the same seller, I also purchased this ivory veiling, which I'm going to maybe use. And then up here, I have yarn, which I'm going to wrap the base of the hat form with, or at least that's my plan. I also have the trim I don't really want to use, but I brought it out both for inspiration / if I get desperate when it comes to covering the wire. And I also have some beads, which match the beads in the trim, and some yellow ribbon, which isn't really wide enough to make bows or anything with, but I could use that to cover the hat if I need to. And then over here, I have the wire I'm going to be using. So I'm going to use this thinner wire to support parts of it, and then I'm going to use this to make the actual headband. And I've got some medical tape to just tape things into position as well. So this isn't really going to be a tutorial. I'm probably going to film the whole process, speed it up, and stick a voiceover over it, but I'm not intending for this to be a really instructional video. I know the concept of making fascinators out of wire and millinery flowers, but I've never done it before. However, I have made lots of other hats, so if you want to see tutorials on those, then check out my tutorial playlist. But this is kind of new territory for me, so we'll just see how it goes. So I started by cutting a length of wire long enough to form the headband hat shape thing. And I'm using way thicker wire than usual since I wanted the base to be sturdy. But it was really hard to cut and bend, so I kind of regret this choice. I bent the wire in half, at least to the best of my ability, then started twisting the two ends of the wire together. This is where the thicker wire became a huge pain. I didn't have the right pliers to intertwine the ends nicely, so I ended up with something really bulky that I'm pretty unhappy with. But I persevered. Once the ends were trimmed, I bent it into my desired shape, and I started adding wire supports across the headband. In hindsight, I should have added 4 times as many of these, just to create a larger base to attach the flowers to. And I used the thinner wire for this part of the process. Then I wrapped medical tape over the joint points, which worked really well, but it was so hard to cut and it was too wide when it wasn't cut. So in the future I need to get thinner medical tape or actually buy millinery tape, because I think they make some for this process. But then you have to plan in advance instead of getting your hat supplies at CVS. And here you can kind of see the ugly nubby end where the wire joins together. It gets hidden later on, but I know it's there and I absolutely hate it. Now I began covering everything with knitting wool. This worked really well and gave a similar effect to some of the other hats I own, but I should have picked a wool color closer to the shade of my hair and a fiber that is thinner and less fluffy. The rest of the wire looked better as I started wrapping the wool around it, but look at that ugly end. It just got worse. It looks like a giant grub, like something they would eat and then throw up on Naked and Afraid. Definitely not the look I wanted. After all of the excess wool was tied off and trimmed away, this is the finished base. All things considered, I actually think it turned out pretty well. At this point I played around with the veiling, but I decided to add the flowers first. So I started decorating with some of the larger velvet leaves, and I'm just wrapping the wire stems around the wire base that I made. And to get a bit more control over the placement, I sewed some of the leaves together. And with the base of the leaves done, I started unbundling my flowers. Unbundling is not a natural word to say. I'm not even sure if that is a word. I started adding them one at a time, and this is when I realized I didn't have nearly enough wire supports for the quantity of flowers I wanted to add. So instead of adding them one at a time, I started adding clumps of 5 or 6 at a time, which looks a lot bulkier but was kind of my only option to get the level of density I wanted with the support structure that I had. Once I liked the left side, I moved over to the right side and I repeated the process, but I made the flowers less dense. This was definitely a design choice and not because I was running out of them. I also carried them up higher so they covered most of the front band of wire. And to cover the grubby end of the wire, I stitched some leaves to the wool surrounding it. That will prevent it from peeking out at any point when this is worn. Once I was happy with the flower placement, I got the veiling back out again, and I cut the 1 yard length in half, so I was working with 18 inches. And I twisted the short ends of it and stitched that to both sides of the interior of the hat. Then I tacked down a few other points until I liked how it laid when the hat was worn. And that's it! So that is all of the footage that I filmed. I hope it was interesting or entertaining or helpful or all of the above. I know I really enjoyed making this. There are just things that I wish I could have done differently and things I would do differently in the future. But that is just a fact of life and trying new things. The first thing you're gonna make isn't gonna be perfect, and the second one and the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one probably aren't either. It just takes time. So I'm happy that I put myself out there and I tried something a little bit different. I definitely ended up with a wearable hat that I like and feel complements this dress. It's just not exactly what I'd envisioned. But I'm going to show you this hat a little bit closer up. My hair is not perfect today, neither is my makeup, so I apologize for that. So hopefully you can tell that the wire actually sits really pretty close to my scalp. And it's very comfortable having it on. It just feels like a normal headband, if not more comfortable, because there isn't as much pressure on my head. I also really like how the veiling added a little bit of texture to the front of it and created like a line of differentiation between where my hair is and where the hat begins. I think it's really pretty and quite subtle in the way that I ended up placing it. I also love the color of the flowers and leaves and just the texture in general, but I don't feel like, I don't know, the placement was quite right, and it just looks bulkier than I was expecting it to while still not having the amount of volume that I wanted it to have. So that's definitely something to work on and to play around with in the future, but I'm happy that I made this and I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. And on that very positive note, I'm going to end this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, giving it a like and a comment really helps me out. You could also subscribe and stick around for the next one. That would be cool too. I've got lots of videos planned for the future, some of which involve little hats like this and some of which that don't. So thanks again for watching, and I will talk to all of you very soon.